Hello and welcome to The Studio Demands It, an exercise in creative thinking where we will conceptualize, pitch, and craft a film or series based on the demands or stipulations from one of you listeners acting as a hypothetical Hollywood overlord. You're not going to give me an overlord?
Overlord!
Man, is there a delay in the room? Am I sitting further away than normal? Is that why? Are you here? Can you hear me over there on the couch?
No.
Jim.
I'm trying to think of new bits.
Jim. All right.
And it's not working.
As professional screenwriters ourselves and massive cinephiles, we talk movies all the time.
All the time.
And we'd like to believe ourselves capable of meeting any demand thrown at us. We will be your screenwriters for this episode. I am TC Witt, and joining me, as always, is Jim on strike Burzelic. Is that what's happening?
Topical.
Yeah, you didn't want to give me your regular stuff because you're on strike.
Yep.
All right. Well.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of more bits, and I got. I'm purposely not giving any. That'd be a bad way to do an episode. Just like, all right, so here's the demand.
No.
What do you think?
No. I think nothing.
Yeah.
There was I had a good conversation thread going on Twitter with a couple listeners to remain nameless because it got a little heated, and I'm not going to call anyone out, but someone commented, and this sort of goes to the writer's strike conversation. We're throwing our ideas out there for free. Mm-hmm. We are pitching this stuff. Our lunchroom conversation is documented, and we're throwing movie ideas out there. And someone asked us why are we just giving away ideas for free? And someone else commented that the fact that we can consistently do this is the skill, not our singular ideas. While good, the real skill is to continue to have ideas. Yeah. So there's a screenwriter I follow, Michael Jamin. He has an Instagram and YouTube, and he's worked in the biz. And he says if you have an idea stolen, and you think your career is now over because your one good idea was stolen, you weren't going to succeed to begin with. So it's a mean way to say it, but it's if you only have one good idea, what good are you?
Sure.
So the conversation in the Twitterverse, as I was having it with these two listeners of ours, was, no, I don't feel bad about throwing our ideas out there because I want people to know how good our ideas are. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about just giving it away for free?
For the most part, I agree. We talk about, for the most part, we talk about big properties. And while, yes, I'd like to someday work on a big property, that'd be amazing. And as much as I think our ideas are great and the way we pitch our ideas is great, they're probably not super unique.
How many times have we been right? We'll advance an idea and then see the movie that came out and be like, oh, well, at least we know we're on the pulse.
There's a lot of parallel thinking. Now I realized I don't want to say that out loud in a way that the world can hear because so you guys aren't doing anything.
I hope we're entertaining you, for Christ's sake.
That'd be nice. But what we don't do, for the most part, I know back in the day, like season 1, maybe even 2, we did a bit more. We'd come up with a few more unique ideas. But, again, for every idea we put on mic here, we have 5 more.
Oh, yeah.
So telling you how we think a Moon Knight movie should go isn't going to break us.
No. And really this is about the process of brainstorming ideas. Because that's what it ultimately came down to with the couple listeners that I was chatting with was we've said this a million times. We're going to have these conversations anyway. That's what led to the creation of this podcast. But over time we have developed it to the point of this is the conversation that you should be having when talking about your story. Maybe not exactly how we do it. This is certainly not the rule, but this is the brainstorming process that Jim and I have here when we're working on our original content. When I'm like, hey, I wrote this script, let's work through it. Jim, you'll challenge me and be like, well, this doesn't work. Let's brainstorm A, B, and C. That's the real exercise of something here is that like Give us a prompt.
Well, right, like going all the way back to the beginning of why we even start, or the thing that got us to start this, Star Trek Into Darkness. It started with the simple phrase, that you didn't care for what they had done, and that went, okay, what would you do?
Yeah.
And it was just the statement, well, I wouldn't do Khan.
Right, but then you said,
and then I said, well, but you have to.
You have to.
So now,
now
move forward doing that.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, it's really easy to say, well, do it without this. Okay, but like honestly, even that. Okay, Star Trek Into Darkness. Okay, you're not going to do Khan. What story do you do? Like, and I feel like a lot of people just drop references and they think that that's pitching a story, but it's there's more to it than that.
Yeah. And removing. So, speaking of like, well, just don't do that.
Yeah.
Let's go to a little topical bit of conversation. Nice, cheeky fun made towards this referenced recently. Star-Lord punching Thanos.
Oh, sure.
In Infinity War.
Yep.
People were pissed off about that. Oh, I hate Star-Lord. I hate Chris Pratt. I hate Star-Lord for punching Thanos. He literally risked the entire.
He stopped
galaxy.
them from winning at the 45-minute mark.
Yeah, and that's sort of where it's like, okay, he doesn't do it. What's the rest of the movie now? Go if you complaining online are mad that story beat happened, you now have to replace that story beat. Do they just win there? If they can't just win there, because then the movie's over in 45 minutes, an hour, or whatever. Okay, what do you do?
What do we do instead?
Yeah.
We just don't have that.
Yeah.
We just don't have that story beat, and now they just can't get his glove off in time. That's it, and
that's
not as
that's not a movie.
Well, it is, but it's just not as interesting.
Right. Yeah, and
not everyone likes cherries on their ice cream sundaes, but that's like having an ice cream sundae without the cherry on top. Not saying that the analogy works.
It does. It does. I followed it. It was great. But to the grander point about like giving our ideas away for free, I say up top the way we introduce the show. This is a creative exercise. This is we want to work out our muscles creatively as much as possible so that we can tackle any story, whether it's a big IP like Fast and the Furious or Star Wars or Indiana Jones or whatnot, or it's the more random stuff like freaking Cannonball Run or The Lone Ranger, or even more obscure than that, stuff that technically doesn't exist, which is kind of what we're doing today. It's an existing IPs plural that but we're not. Anyway, we'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, to the question of like how do we feel about giving our ideas away for free? We're giving away ideas for free. Imagine how much we have that we're not giving it away.
Sure. Well, also on top of that, when one of our ideas is actually taken, I get maybe that'll be a bridge to cross when we come to it. When one of our ideas is actually made as we
envisioned
pitched it.
Yeah.
Until then, we're just some movie geeks.
We're just a couple of movie nerds just
like
sitting
every
here
other movie geek, saying how they think.
This is what I would do. This is what I would do.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Well, let's look at what we're going to do today here. What do you say? Our amazing listeners have given us no. You're knowing me?
Yeah.
Oh, you're playing that guy again, Jim the.
You gave me the choice.
Well, Jim, our listeners have given us demands from studios literally all over the world. And you, listening now, you can send us any demand you'd like, and we will have to meet it right here on the spot. And when we reach the end of the episode, if we've done our jobs, we'll have pitched a full script and a story meeting or even exceeding those demands. And when the end of the season comes, this demand, your demand, could have helped craft the script that is greenlit by the fans for our finale. So thank you to everyone who keeps submitting and commenting and liking and sharing. Keep at it. Thank you very much. But Jim, today's demand actually comes from two different people because these sort of overlap. So first, we've got Ben Worley. Do you know Ben?
I do.
You do know Ben. Okay. From Standing Right Behind You, LLC. The Sherlock Holmes story has enchanted people for a century and a half, and every creator tries to beat more money out of this dead horse. Now it's your turn. The studio demands a Sherlock Holmes movie that feels fresh, unique, and is worth watching that has its own voice yet cleaves to the original ideas that made it so beloved. Oh, not a challenge at all. Make it unique, but make it sound like...
Yeah, but that also that is every like...
That's a studio demand if I ever heard one.
Yeah.
Also, one final note here. Also, Jim is handsome.
Oh, thank you, Ben.
But yeah, that is...
I suppose I should just turn around since you're standing right behind me.
LLC! Yes, that is the epitome of a studio demand right there. Make it unique, but make it so people like it.
Yeah.
Well, to help us make it unique, we have a second demand here from Pat, from, very simply, Classic Pictures.
This is a multi-studio picture.
Yes, this is in association with Classic Pictures. Pat says, Sherlock, Dracula, Tarzan. These are three of the most famous characters of all time. They have been adapted over and over again. I propose a movie where these three exist together, be they enemies or allies. Modern day is not essential, but as you'd verge into territory well-trodden. But as they are from different periods, the goal is to set them in a period that utilizes their skill sets and personalities. Plus, cell phones and the internet make everything dumber. So, period piece, mates. Have fun, but also make me millions. Another classic studio demand.
Yeah.
So, Ben asking for a unique Sherlock, and Pat coming in by adding Dracula and Tarzan to the mix.
I think Pat did the demand for Ben.
There you go. Ben, you can thank Pat for everything that follows, or blame him.
Yeah.
So, the demand as we have it here is to combine Sherlock Holmes, Count Dracula, and Tarzan.
Yes.
And you're not incorrect in saying that they're three of the most adapted characters of all time. Sherlock, in particular, is the most adapted fictional character ever. There are literally thousands of adaptations of the Sherlock Holmes mythology.
Sure.
Dracula and Tarzan are in the top 10 of all time. There's like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. The Phantom of the Opera is in there. Peter Pan, Alice. But taking those three and finding a way to tell a story using those three. Jim, the studio demands it. I see you've done it. I see you writing notes on your phone right now.
No, I'm checking because something was said that I didn't think was true, that these are characters from different time periods.
Yeah, sure.
I don't think they are.
Really? Okay.
I think they're all from the same time period.
Like 19th century, 18th century?
20th century.
Okay.
They're all early 20th century.
Really? Okay. Well, then let's just for example, Zorro. The Zorro as we know it, whether it's the old TV show or the movies, even the comics itself, the Spaniards and the war with Mexico and the Civil War, that all didn't happen at the same time. That was spread out.
Sure.
But for Zorro's stories, they always kind of smash those things into this very ambiguous, that time period.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, whether Tarzan, Dracula, and Sherlock are overlapping significantly or barely, we can just say this happens in the steam train era or the early 20th century. We, in preparation for this, knowing that Sherlock was part of the demand, we watched the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes, which we did a commentary track, which is available on our Patreon for those who might be interested to hear us ramble through that. But I'm vamping because I still see Jim with his nose in his phone.
I'm checking three different characters to make sure for sure. Mm-hmm. So Tarzan is technically the youngest.
Okay.
Right. So Dracula takes place in the late 1800s.
Okay.
Sherlock Holmes takes place in the late 1800s and early 1900s.
Mm-hmm.
Tarzan is abandoned or lost lost in the African jungle in the 1880s.
Okay.
But he's an adult, so it takes place. It's set from 1912 into the 1930s.
Okay, so let's just say around the early 1900s.
Yeah.
Is where we're setting this.
Turn of the century.
The turn of the century. So since Sherlock was part of both demands, do you want to make him the central character, and he is somehow dealing with? My first thought is Dracula's the bad guy. Sherlock teams up with Tarzan.
That's my instinct as well.
But like blending mythologies, I'm like, well, could
But the other reason to I'm trying to think of can you think of a story off the top of your head?
Okay.
Where I guess actually Sherlock Holmes stories technically do this, where the character you're following isn't Sherlock himself. It's actually you get the perspective of Watson, so you get to see the genius uncover everything rather than following the genius figuring things out.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because I was going to say that's the reason we follow Sherlock is he's the one who's going to be revealing everything. So as the audience starts learning things, so would Sherlock. But Sherlock is such a genius that he will have seen things even before the audience does. So maybe that's not the perspective character.
Sherlock shouldn't be the perspective character.
Perhaps.
I see. Okay. I whatever we choose, I don't want Dracula to be our perspective character because
No.
I for the most part feel like Dracula has been sucked dry, if you don't mind the wordplay. That mythology has just been done to undeath. I'll keep going here. I got plenty. These are off the top of the head, Jim.
Yeah, nice.
But having Dracula be the villain, I don't mind that, but we have to not do Van Helsing. Because Dracula ended up being the bad guy in Van Helsing, which makes sense because
it's Van Helsing is the vampire hunter in Dracula. So off the top of my head,
Moriarty is the Renfield. Sorry, just throwing that out there.
I see what you're saying. So I also don't know when the whole the waterfall story takes place, where Sherlock and Moriarty die because they die together, right? That's
yes,
what happened there. I'm not misremembering that.
But then he comes back.
Sherlock
I'm
comes
sorry,
back.
I am coughing.
Yeah.
Keep talking.
So
I have to go get water.
Well, so Sherlock comes back, but Moriarty does not. That is the death of Moriarty, right? See, that's what I can't. I got to vamp now through that, but that was where my question was because just sounds is how I vamp. I just make random sounds.
I believe
this is why I was a bass player and not a singer.
I think Arthur Conan Doyle. I do believe that's accurate that Moriarty stayed dead. However, the amount of Sherlock that has existed since Moriarty has been brought back. Like even on Sherlock the show, Moriarty was such a mad genius that he planted an AI of himself to haunt Sherlock after his death.
Okay. Well, those are details. Those are potential obstacles. But my idea is Moriarty wants to. I want the time the events of those stories to have happened.
Okay.
Right. So
we're in the latter half of Sherlock's life.
So Van Helsing and
Mina, Jonathan,
all them that all happened.
So Dracula has survived.
Dracula did not survive.
Oh.
Moriarty is bringing Dracula back.
Oh, all right. Well, why? We'll get to that. Moriarty is resurrecting Count Dracula.
Likely for his own nefarious purposes.
What a bastard.
So that's but the way he's doing it is he needs a MacGuffin that he gets from Africa.
The jungle. Yes, that makes perfect sense. So now we're creating a reason for Tarzan to be entered in the story.
I don't know enough of Tarzan's story. Does Tarzan come to London?
Yes.
He does.
So
it's Crocodile Dundee is just the Tarzan story.
Yes.
Okay.
Couldn't be more accurate. Oh my God, man.
I'm going to engage Tarzan through Crocodile Dundee.
That is actually weird, stupidly accurate. Yeah. Tarzan shipwrecked by his family, or his parents shipwrecked. He ends up in Africa. His parents are killed or die. He's raised by the apes.
Gets ape powers.
He gets ape powers. He's then discovered by explorers who try to bring him to London and make a gentleman out of him because he's sort of a novelty.
Mm-hmm.
This man who was raised by apes, and but you can't take the jungle out of the man, and he returns to the jungle. That's like the most simplest way to describe Tarzan.
Okay.
But just a man with ape powers. Now, sorry, for analysis of Tarzan, there's different perspectives on this. If you want to get into some literature aspect of it, initially it's a commentary on colonialism or imperialism.
Sure.
There has since been perspectives on it to look at as an allegory for conservation, like protecting endangered species,
Sure.
Tarzan's relationship with nature can be looked through the lens of he is a guardian of the purity of nature.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have superpowers, and certainly
I know,
we're dealing with Dracula in this, so clearly magic is sort of a thing, but I don't want to see like wizards shooting blasts in this, and I don't want Tarzan to he doesn't mutate into an ape.
My God, where did you think I was going to go?
I'm just putting that on record that I don't. If there's any thought of getting so wild with this that it's wild.
When I said ape powers, it's more like Dom Toretto's car powers in Fast and Furious.
Having Moriarty go to the jungle for the MacGuffin that will lead to the resurrection of Count Dracula is great, especially if he gets down there and slaughters a bunch of apes. If he slaughters Tarzan's people, and Tarzan's like, vengeance, I will go to the city, run around barefoot, and punch things.
Sure.
Because you kind of got a muscle, the brute force of Tarzan is going to have to team up with the intellectual savvy of Sherlock Holmes. That's a good matchup.
Yes, I did it. Job done. Demand answered. Well, let's wrap this up.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening.
Okay, so we have the spine.
Yeah. At least the Act 1 into 2 is of as far as Moriarty basically opening the movie following him to the jungle.
I'm wondering if we shouldn't know it's Moriarty.
We shouldn't. It'd just be a guy.
I'm thinking not even a guy. It's minions, henchmen.
Mm-hmm.
Henchmen are doing it.
So he doesn't physically go himself.
Correct.
He sent some guys. Okay.
Because we could play with the death of Moriarty. So this is a plan by Moriarty from beyond the grave to bring himself back using Dracula powers.
Okay. That is something. That's something.
So basically, he did die. He did die when he fell from the waterfall with Sherlock.
Okay.
And Sherlock survived through his ingenuity of landing on Moriarty's body and whatever 2 or 3 other things helped him do that.
So Reichenbach Falls.
There you go.
Where Holmes and Moriarty fall to their death, their final battle, the Napoleon of crime. Both characters plunge to their death there. Do you want to? If we're going to kind of go we're going into adventure territory as far as this movie's concerned, do you want to open with that? Do you want to open with that battle? Just literally kick it off. There's lightning strikes. Just boom, kick right into this battle opens the movie.
That might actually be best rather than set 1 or 2 acts into the movie doing a flashback.
Yeah. And if we approach this with, okay, people are going to know these characters in one way or another, but let's do our best to introduce these concepts and characters. And if we introduce Sherlock surviving death through his wit, crawling out freaking Skyfall style, and he's like, oh shit, I can't believe I survived. That's a pretty exciting opening to a movie.
Sure.
And honestly, going as traditional as possible. They did the falls in Game of Shadows, I think second.
Yeah, they did.
But they did a chess match, and it was Jared Harris versus Robert Downey Jr. And so we're in well-trodden territory. But I think kicking off with a fun action sequence of Sherlock falling to his death, or Moriarty and Sherlock falling, and then sometime later, title sequence
Yeah.
sometime later, the jungle, and there's minions entering a
I
forest.
suppose for the audience that does immediately tie, these must, like, I feel like that does automatically tie it to Moriarty, which is okay. I don't know if I have the capability of crafting a truly unique and I'm doing a bad job of disparaging myself.
You're doing great, Jim. Your ideas are wonderful.
No, like
You look great with all that baby oil on.
Writing mysteries to me is hard.
Right.
And making them convincing, and like then making the detective uncover these clues. Like
We've discussed this. That
I'm fascinated by mystery stories because I don't know how to do that.
But we've discussed this. I don't think we've done it on mic, but seemingly the best way to craft a mystery is to do it backwards.
Sure.
Start with your reveal and then work your way through the clues. Let's not worry about that. That the Moriarty reveal, the Dracula reveal, people are going to be selling this movie. Or the marketing team is going to sell this as Sherlock, Dracula, Tarzan.
Yeah.
And so there's going to be no hiding. Just the way movies are made, there's going to be no hiding that these three characters are involved in the story. So, sure, if someone right at the beginning is like, "Oh, these are Moriarty's men. What are they doing?" That's the question. How is this connected? That's fine. Particularly because if once Dracula is resurrected,
Up and about.
if he's like, "No, screw you, Moriarty," now we have like a 3-point battle.
When it comes to it comes to that part, I figured Moriarty's plan will be clever enough that it actually tricks Dracula into giving Moriarty Dracula powers.
Okay.
Dracula's not like, "Nah, I owe you, guy, so I'm going to do this." It's Moriarty cleverly tricks Dracula into doing it.
Okay. To TBD how that's going to play out.
Yeah.
But
actually, maybe the trick is he does it before he's fully resurrected. Dracula has been defeated.
Right.
I forget I'm a bad nerd. I've forgotten how Dracula is actually
Van Helsing,
defeated.
Jonathan, and the American whose name I never remember crossbow and set that dude on fire. Like they burn him to a bloody crisp.
All right. The idea that comes to mind is Moriarty somehow afterwards gets a hold of his skull.
Ooh,
he has Dracula's skull.
Yeah.
And it's basically set up in a way that the minions just need to get Moriarty's body set into, like, the skull is supposed to then basically fang him.
Like a conduit.
Because it's still going to have his fangs.
Sure.
But the MacGuffin that's needed is this relic lost in Africa. Or hidden away or whatever. So they recover that, put that in our MacGuffin device. The skull, as the blood touches the skull and starts reinvigorating Dracula, he has already unwittingly bit and resurrected Moriarty himself. So, something like that. I would even go so far as to say he's not even sired by Dracula, so he's not even beholden.
He's not a familiar. Like he's
like a copy.
Yeah. Well, that'd be great because as soon as Dracula reaches his like, I live, and like, yes, I'm the one who brought you back, and Dracula's like, haha, and like goes to like rip his throat out, and Moriarty's like, you don't think I'm stupid enough to let that happen? Oh, a clever man you are. Blah.
I think I'm in love. And now it's a different movie.
It's a different movie. I'm for it. I've always wanted an equal. Yes.
Dracula and Moriarty romance.
They team up to destroy their enemies and rule the world.
How romantic.
As far as like villain plot goes, that's a great set of beats to get to that point of like. I mean, that's you're not halfway. It's more like end of first act to like bring Dracula back. Moriarty's got the power as well. Let's pause there.
Or, sorry,
No,
like it doesn't bring back Moriarty that way. Moriarty, a part of the artifact that they get, resurrects Dracula, unknown to Dracula, because he's just concerned about being back.
Yeah,
is it ties his force, not life force, his death force, to Moriarty in a way that so now we get the rest of our movie. Sherlock Holmes and Tarzan and friends help. They work together. They defeat Dracula, and as Dracula is defeated, all of Dracula's power drains out because they've defeated him, and that's when it goes into Moriarty.
So sort of like a third act twist of
Yeah.
like they defeat Dracula. Moriarty's been a threat too, but like basically all
Well,
the
no,
power.
he doesn't show up.
Moriarty doesn't show up at all.
No,
Interesting. Okay.
because literally Moriarty's plan hinges on the fact he knows and expects Sherlock Holmes to defeat Dracula, and in Sherlock Holmes' success, that will bring Moriarty back.
Oh, okay. So
And it will
you're
bring him
changing
back.
what you're changing. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
And it will bring him back with Dracula's powers, without Dracula being there to even vie for them against him.
Okay, I kind of like that, particularly because it will require Sherlock to basically solve the clues or follow the breadcrumbs to defeat Dracula, and then have the sad realization that he has been manipulated the entire time by Moriarty, who's essentially the one who tips him off.
Mm-hmm.
Like whatever the first clue that Sherlock gets, it's like, hey, head on down to Miller's Row. Like, John, what do we have? Oh, well, we have this case and this case. Like, that case sounds interesting. Like, Moriarty manipulates Sherlock from the get to get
Sure.
him on the path that will lead him to fighting a vampire. So let's look at Sherlock. Are we with Sherlock like back from the dead? Like, no, he doesn't come back from the dead. He survives right at the opening. Like, we see that he has survived.
Yeah, I think the flash forward or he shouldn't survive without damage. Right?
Sure.
Like
Let's give him a limp.
he's super broken.
Yeah,
He's laid up for a long time. So if our flash forward could be like a year. Like,
still-
I see your legs are finally working again. Or
Well, let's put him in a
something
brace.
like- yeah.
Let's have him have some sort of mechanical brace that
Yeah.
he developed. Let's put him at as much
you go.
disadvantage as possible.
He has a cane and he pops Vicodin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a great idea.
Insistent on skateboarding though,
Are you?
and he's become a doctor.
How many people are following the
A
house
medical
reference
doctor.
right now? Everyone's following the house reference. Are we good here? Okay. But no, putting him in like a knee brace, like a leg brace,
Mm-hmm.
putting him in a physical disadvantage, like his true power lies in his mind,
Mm-hmm.
that allows Tarzan to be the physical side of things.
And that way, Sherlock Holmes' Baritsu won't overpower
Yes.
Tarzan's jungle
Folks,
strength.
tangent here. Jim has blown my gourd here with the revelation that there's a gentlemanly British martial arts called Baritsu, which utilizes a cane. And I gotta wonder if
It was popularized. It existed beforehand. It was popularized by Arthur Conan Doyle, giving that to Sherlock Holmes.
yeah, that's I never knew, and I wonder
Yeah.
if Kingsman is utilizing Baritsu because they use the cane and everything,
Sure.
or umbrellas or whatever. So cool. But yes, he is damaged. Not a lot of Baritsu from Mr. Holmes here. Let's change it over to Tarzan here. If in the after credits, the opening first scene of the movie after the prologue is this group attacking the forest, mowing down animals, and escaping, Tarzan is like, I'm gonna kick some ass here. I gotta head back to the follow these guys and just beat them up. Is that essentially the motivation we're giving him?
Sort of. I think so. So when we go to the jungles of Africa, I think we introduce it with a bit of a misdirect, because I think a misdirect should happen here. Which
Sure.
that's a bad way to explain that. So it's,
You misdirected me with that conversation.
we go to Tarzan winning a battle against some
cheetah.
terrible
Okay,
colonialists.
some colonists, yeah.
Yeah, they're like, let's just burn the jungle down and be jerks, and he's all, no, I don't think so.
Punchify,
And
punchify,
he-
punchify.
and they run away, and they're like, hooray, guerrilla friends, we've done it, we've saved the day.
Mm-hmm.
And so after this fun introductory action scene, it ends with one of his ape friends somehow communicating. I don't know if we want to do apes talking or something else.
I do not.
Okay.
But we will have some sort of sign language or something that allows them to communicate.
Somehow he finds out that while this was happening, some other people and maybe we show them doing it while Tarzan and friends are distracted.
Mm-hmm.
These other people have snuck sort of behind them
Into a temple of sorts.
into a temple to take this sacred artifact,
Mm-hmm.
which is we learn is one of the many things that Tarzan wants the world of man to never actually get and find.
He's protecting these artifacts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The many secrets of the jungle.
The
And
Shankara
this is
stones
one.
from Temple of Doom.
There you go. Yeah.
So is his mission to not just seek revenge on the people who harmed and killed some of his animal friends, but also get that object back?
Well, yes. I guess for our bad guys, I'm mostly thinking it's not. I think Tarzan. Most of this isn't revenge.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yes, obviously he wants to. Hey, you jerks! You stabbed my gorillas. That's not cool.
Bastards.
But it's to get that artifact back.
Got it.
Because if that ends up in the wrong hands, and really any hands are the wrong hands,
That's bad for the world.
Bad things will happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So his mission is get the thing back.
Yeah.
Cool. That's fine. I'm cool with that. Does he get the thing back?
I mean, eventually.
I think he should get the thing back. Like he gets ultimately giving him a happy ending of like succeeding in getting the doohickey.
Well, yeah,
back
they
to
defeat Dracula. He gets his the like we learn. It's a thing that brings back Dracula's.
We should probably protect it somewhere.
Yeah.
I'll handle this, Sherlock.
Yeah. That's my thought.
Okay.
I think that's most of the thoughts.
I'd like Tarzan to be very like direct. There's no sneaking through the shadows. He's like kicking doors down and like he has no fear. He's just like he's a cannonball. He's rushing into any place he
Sure.
thinks he's got a lead. He just
Yeah.
comes in swinging.
Well, we learn he's actually very articulate. He just doesn't have time for it. That's why he says stuff like "Me Tarzan."
Me angry.
There's no time to be like, "Hello, my name is Tarzan. What's your name?" "Me Tarzan." Gotta go.
Punch, kick. I also like the idea, just as a character element, that even if he's wearing a suit, that he remains barefoot at all times. Like he's just does not like shoes. That's
Sure.
just like a costume character element that he's because he understands the city. He's been there.
So I mean, I also don't know how Tarzan ends with the relationship with him and Jane.
Depends on. I sorry, I do not recall book Jane. But as far as cinema is concerned, sometimes Jane stays with him.
Okay.
Sometimes their love is just not meant to be.
All right, I have one of two ideas.
Okay.
Either Jane went back with him, and so she now comes with him to. I think it could be a lot of fun if he doesn't want to wear shoes. This is like an anecdotal thing. It's not even a plot thing.
Yeah.
But for some reason he has to wear them in polite society. But the moment like a thing happens, he like kicks him
off.
You see him kick him off. Or
Sure.
Things like that.
And Jane,
I think that could be a lot of fun.
yeah, I like that. And Jane's the one encouraging him to.
Sort of. Well, because she's
Blend
the
in.
one. She's the one who's going to know how to actually get him to London and deal with people in London when he then goes off and starts
Punching.
brawling.
I like the idea of involving Jane.
The other thought,
Yeah.
if we don't want to have her be essentially his Watson, is they did separate, and she's remarried. That love is always there. So we would even have a scene where like, hey, I'm in town. Oh, this is uncomfortable, but thank you for seeing me. And like we see, there's this longing that they will never be able to do.
Unfortunately, I am currently engaged to this doctor, John Watson. Instead of Mary being John's betrothed, to make it Jane. Just throwing that out there as an option to link the worlds together all the more.
I'll think about like a part of me likes that, but another part of me doesn't. I'm of two minds.
Oh my god. I'm of two minds as well. I like the notion that she's with him from the get, that they are a duo.
They're a duo.
That they're a team. it gives us some female lead for the movie, which
Sure.
having 3 iconic male figures, we want to diversify a little bit here. Having her involved from the get works, but I do think there might be something in her not being there. And then there's the 2 options of, is she married? That's a great idea. Is she married to John Watson? That's a real tight link.
It is.
Maybe that's too much of a link, and there's something better in.
I think there's something lighter and more fun. Having them, they're together. They're a duo, and then when that duo meets our Holmes and Watson duo,
Yeah.
like Jane and John, Jane and Watson,
Mm-hmm.
like have a knowing exchange. Like, yeah,
I deal with that.
Yeah.
I deal with that.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't envy you. Yeah, I get it.
like that could be a lot of fun.
Sure. Yeah. And then it's essentially the 4 of them. Yeah. If we want to bring in the regulars, right?
Yeah.
If we want to bring in Irene, and then if there's any Dracula characters we want to involve in the story as well, because it's so far removed from the end of Dracula from Bram Stoker, do we want to involve Jonathan, Mina? Does Van Helsing? No, Van Helsing doesn't
I think
die.
he dies.
Does he die in the?
He's also pretty old.
Yeah. So involving Mina or Jonathan is an option as well. I don't want to involve
My
them.
thought is no.
Okay, good. We're on the same page there. As far as the Dracula mythology is concerned, Dracula's the guy we want.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's get back to, we kind of give him Tarzan a good, like, let's get him there. He has his motive. He's gonna punch his way to get to the thing. Honestly, the plot to resurrect Dracula and Tarzan punching his way to find the guys who stole the thing, those 2 intersect at essentially the turning point of the movie where Dracula is risen. The other intersection we need to...
That should probably... I feel like that should probably be the end of Act 1.
Yeah, like a third of the movie is leading up to Tarzan getting to the doohickey just as Dracula is resurrected. But the other intersection that needs to cross here is, how do we get Sherlock there? So let's go to Sherlock and discuss what's his story. Here's a thought that I've been thinking about. He did survive the falls. He is still pretty banged up, and he's sort of lost a step. He's still just trying to put him get him on a little bit of a disadvantage, get him on the back foot. That he's basically taking really easy gigs, like he's deliberately showing off. He's taking the easiest gigs to get paid and prove how smart he is, but he's avoiding the more challenging ones. That's sort of the idea of, like, what's his arc in this, of like he nearly died, he lost his greatest enemy, he brags that he succeeded in that, but there's also something of like, I'll never be challenged at that level ever again. Moriarty is dead. Well, and John could be like, well, Sherlock, are you avoiding being challenged? I know this is text rather than subtext, but just trying to create an idea of drama in what Sherlock's gig is, that what's his deal in this, is that he's kind of been defeated. Even though he lived, he's broken. He lost his greatest adversary, so he's you get what I'm saying? I kind of rambled that out.
I kind of see what you're saying. I don't. Let me try a variation.
Sure.
It's not that he's avoiding challenging cases. It's that no cases are challenging, and so he refuses most.
Okay.
And the few that he does bother are ridiculously easy. Also, he's super. I mean, I know he was already reclusive, but
even more so.
Yeah, like he has disbanded the irregulars. He hasn't. Watson and him don't. They don't regularly go on adventures. They
Watson's
don't regularly
married.
do things.
He's
married. He's off doing his own thing. And Sherlock also. I like the idea that he actually, at least at the time, thought it was a good idea to perpetuate that he is dead.
Sure. And
so maybe he's been the few cases he's been taking to make sure that he has enough money to stay in 221B Baker Street is just for money. It's
then there could be a moment of either him coming to the realization or being challenged on it of, you might as well have died. If this is the life you're living, you might as well have died. Basically sort of like shaking him out of it. I like that. As far as like a character drama is concerned, that's something for him to overcome. I want to add another element here. He refuses, just outright refuses to believe that a vampire exists.
I understand. I get
until he has to face
angle.
The reality of it.
Sure, because I think it's an Arthur Conan Doyle, if not a Sherlock quote about how if you eliminate all the possibilities, only the truth. I'm getting it wrong, but only the truth remains, something like that. But like, it's a thing that can actually be used to justify the supernatural.
When you eliminate the impossible,
there you go.
Whatever is left, no matter how improbable, is likely the truth. I believe that's the quote. So he just refuses to believe that a vampire is a thing. He's like, no.
Sure.
There's a scientific explanation for this. I refuse to. So once he's finally,
and we like the whole time he's referencing previous cases.
Yeah.
Watson, do you remember the case of so-and-so? Of course I remember the case of so.
Garlic did not defeat him because he was supernaturally had a predilection against garlic. He was literally allergic to garlic to a deathly degree.
Yeah, that like he's referring to all these previous cases where it was supposedly supernatural and in the end it wasn't.
So let's say that. Okay, so working on the drama of Sherlock, he's taking easy cases. He's just like nothing is challenging him. The few occasions he has where he like is disproving the impossible. There's a werewolf in London, the werewolf of London, and like and then he like, all right, I'm gonna take this one because it's at least interesting.
Well, so like is that that's our introduction to him is him proving that this isn't a werewolf.
Yeah, so that the supernatural isn't real. Yeah, there's a ghost haunting my estate. He goes in and gets out of it. Like, if those are the little things that he's willing to do because he's like, I don't believe this for 1 second, but wouldn't it be great if it was real? Something like that. I don't know. But so that then when he takes the little cases that sort of, and it's again, we will then reveal Moriarty manipulated him to get to Dracula, to kill Dracula in order to resurrect Moriarty. His intersection, like the intersection that they all meet at, traveling him through the city of kind of taking shitty jobs, small jobs, and the couple, maybe like three, a ghost, a werewolf, a Loch Ness monster type thing.
I don't know if we have that, right, because we have 30 minutes for Act 1?
Yeah.
Half of that's going to Tarzan?
So maybe two things, maybe like a werewolf and a ghost. Yeah, and then it's that third one of like, there's a cult that's going to raise the dead. I love cults.
See, I'd almost put like I would have that the meeting Sherlock. He is solving this case, proving it's not supernatural.
Yeah,
and then almost immediately he's put onto another case. He's reluctant to do it, but John's back in his life. Watson's back.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll take it. Yeah, you and me once again. Hooray!
You're here for the weekend. I'll do it.
Yeah. And it's immediately he's put onto the case of this cult.
Okay.
That is purportedly hastening the coming of a vampire.
Like, okay, and perhaps the reason that's tipped off is Scotland Yard calls him up and is like, we had this ape man beat the shit out of a group of cultists who are apparently like.
Oh, you just rather because you initially said you wanted them to kind of meet at Dracula Rising, so we don't have to bring up Tarzan yet.
Okay.
Although that might be interesting if instead of Scotland Yard mentioning Tarzan, like Sherlock and Watson show up at the place. See, Watson, I told you they were going to be here in this alcove sewery area, and they're like, yes, and then like it turns out there's like 10 of them. Like, oh, this might be a bit much for us. And
it's only 10. We've had worse. And then 10 more walk in.
Yeah, and then suddenly Tarzan shows up, beats the crap out of all of them, and goes, "What was that?"
Seemed to be some sort of ape man.
Yeah.
Was he barefoot? Preposterous. But getting him on the cult angle right away. Yeah, so that the convergence point, which is essentially the end of our Act 1, the resurrection of
Dracula.
And being like, explain that, Sherlock. And Tarzan's like, I'm too late. The artifact has been used. Even if he retrieves the artifact there, it's now like, well, I can't just leave this resurrected thing. Now I have to stop the thing. My new mission, now that I've retrieved the MacGuffin, is now I got to stop that guy.
Yeah.
And Sherlock's like, hey, maybe stay away.
So technically, right, that means at the because that's not an Act 2 turn, right? Basically, they see the resurrection of Dracula, meaning while they both got there and like, aha, they're too late. They've technically failed.
Yes. So we've got our heroes together. So Sherlock and Tarzan and Dracula has left.
Yes.
So now the next section of the movie is hunt this guy down and stop him. So let's take a break here. We'll throw to our commercials real quick, and we're going to come back for essentially our Act 2 and then the Moriarty Act 3. I think that's our sort of structure of.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
Maybe.
I was thinking Moriarty resurrecting is like that's not an Act 3. That's a denouement stinger situation.
Oh no, we're making one complete film. This is not like he's going to be resurrected to be the bad guy in something else.
We'll discuss.
Okay. All right, we're going to take a quick break here, people. We'll be right back. Here's a couple of messages from the wonderful 6.5 Media.
Hey there, podcast listeners. I am David.
And I'm Kate.
And together we host a podcast that you might be interested in if you like The Legend of Zelda.
There are lots of awesome podcasts out there and a lot of awesome Zelda podcasts out there.
That's right, Kate, and we are another one of them. In fact, that is the name of our show, Another Zelda Podcast.
And in our show in particular, we talk about some of our favorite dungeons, characters, boss battles. We do a couple top 10 lists here and there.
We have some deep dive episodes, and we even pepper in a couple quiz episodes.
We talk about our own experiences. We do some review episodes, talk about our challenges, our struggles, and our victories.
That's right. If it has to do with The Legend of Zelda, we talk about it.
You can check out our episodes on our website, anotherzeldapodcast.com.
You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and a lot of the other podcast services that are out there.
And you can also check out our episodes on our website, anotherzeldapodcast.com.
All right, we will see you there.
Okay, bye.
Hi, I'm Ryan.
And I'm Mike.
And we are brothers-in-law. We both love beer and are amateur home brewers.
Wait, so does that make us brothers-in-law?
I believe so.
Every episode, we will talk about aspects of beer and home brewing.
But nothing super technical because we're learning this too.
So join us as we sit down together and dive into something beer-related.
Whether it's a little field research, tasting a certain beer style, or beers from a specific brewery.
Talk about our experiences brewing beer at home, including our own solo brews, as well as themed competitions we'll set up along the way.
We will also talk about some of our favorite aspects of brewing, like hops, extra ingredients, building our brew cave, and more. And of course, our own misadventures that have happened along the way.
So, if you like beer, are home brewing already,
or if you have an interest in home brewing and don't know where to start,
join us on Brothers-in-Law Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
And make sure to follow us on Twitter @Brothers-in-Law and check out our website, brothersinlaw.com.
Cheers.
Cheers.
And we're back. Here we are. We're sitting here again. We're back. I'm sitting. You're sitting. We're talking about Sherlock and Dracula and Tarzan.
You're saying that. You're saying it guiltily, like we never actually left.
We did. We got up. We got water.
Leave,
but we're back now.
We did. We are.
We came back. We promised we'd come back. Here we are. Whew. So what were we talking about?
RoboCop?
RoboCop. It's the wrong second act here. Okay, so Dracula comes back in a dramatic fashion, just glasses brown. I'm Dracula, and then
And then he wins.
And then that game
And then
roll credits.
The good guys lost.
Yeah.
Dracula takes over London.
So what other movie do you want to talk about, Jim? Let's get another demand in here. Let's add Alice and Peter Pan into this story. Let's not do that. Do not. No, put those gears away. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it.
I'll do it, by God.
Dracula shows
As
up.
Dracula takes over, Alice retreats into Wonderland to her friends to get help to come rescue her family. Meanwhile, Peter Pan notices that
Something's up in London.
yeah, something's up
Wendy
in London
and Jonathan
because-
Michael were
there
eaten
you
by
go.
vampires.
Yeah.
Then Pan shows up, and Tarzan's like, one feral person in this movie. Yeah.
And then they fight, and Peter Pan wins. Oh,
God.
that's a nice twist.
That's a
You didn't
twist
expect
no one
that
saw
coming.
Oh, my God.
All right, no.
Okay, so Dracula shows up, beats up Sherlock, John, Jane, and Tarzan, escapes off into London to wreak havoc.
Yep.
And now it's up to our heroes to track him down and stop him.
Yep.
But it can't be as simple as track him down and stop him. They need to figure out how to stop him.
Mm-hmm.
So, hey, Ape Man, Tarzan, Jungle Boy, how do we stop him? Hell if I know. I just knew this thing would resurrect something. I don't know how to stop whatever that was.
Yeah.
Oh, question. This kind of delves into the Renfield territory. We just saw that movie a few weeks ago. Is the mythology of Dracula, does it exist in Sherlock's world? That's Count Dracula. Or
I don't think it would exist like that. It wouldn't exist as in like everyone knows it.
Mm-hmm.
I think for the second, I was initially thinking a lot of the some of the references that Holmes could make, because they very much they're following the. It would be something like this, but I wouldn't want to. I think this is. I'm stealing this from something else. It would be called. It'd be the Orde de Dracul, right, or something like that. Basically,
Yeah.
very clearly they're trying to resurrect Dracula.
okay.
Sherlock would know about it because he's a very smart guy who knows all these things. He would know about Van Helsing and how Dracula was defeated 20, 30 years ago.
Okay, great. So it's a matter of
I think instead of dropping all those in Act 1, it's Act 2 that he's all like, all right, if they're gonna make us try thinking this is Dracula, because I'm kind of on board of him being
skeptical
okay. Of this.
They're just making us think it's a vampire. There's a perfectly logical explanation for this.
Well, because I think he would go about the method of eliminating possibilities.
Yes.
So it's a matter of right, if it's actually a vampire, this would happen. Oh, that happened. If if it was a vampire, they wouldn't be able to do this. Oh, that
Yep.
right. Like I think there'd be 2 or 3 of those would have to happen here in Act 2.
Mm-hmm.
And so then Holmes would basically bring up the Van Helsing thing, and then so he and Watson, he tells Watson, we need to go find out. We need to find out more about what Van Helsing did to deal with this.
We have to. Yeah, that's our source of information. Is if Van Helsing, if this is really a vampire, how did Van Helsing do it? And we're working. Van Helsing is dead.
Yeah, that I guess maybe that's where the Harkers come back.
Okay, or Renfield. If
Yeah, I don't remember if Renfield actually lived.
okay, we're bending mythologies here, so we're bending
also true.
the fiction here.
We could bend that as well.
So essentially, Holmes and Watson, or maybe wait. Let's back up here. Let's switch our team up. Let's have Jane have some sort of access point to either the Harkers or the Van Helsing estate, because she's part of the London life. She and Sherlock are then teamed up to then go on their fetch quest for information on how to defeat a vampire. And getting to the Harkers, Dracula could send his minions to make sure the only people who know how to destroy him are dead. So then we have an action set piece there with Jane and Sherlock and a house getting burned down.
Okay. I was going to suggest Jane and Watson go to do the legwork, the research, while our heroes continue to pursue the cult.
Okay.
They pursue basically the murder points.
Oh, sure,
as Dracula starts killing people.
So send Jane and John
Yeah.
to the Harkers. Okay, I'd be okay with that.
But I do like your idea of
The reason I would do that is
Yeah.
Sherlock and Tarzan just not getting along, so that when we get to whatever our third act would be, they are forced to. It's just those two having to work together to ultimately defeat Dracula. So if we split them up here, like they have their confrontation where Dracula's resurrected, and it's like it's clear we're not going to work together. Let's switch this up. John, you babysit Tarzan. Jane, you come with me. Whatever. So Sherlock and Jane go to the Harkers and have their action set piece there, leaving John and Tarzan to work together for reasons. That's the only reason I would separate it that way. But I'm totally on board to keeping Sherlock and Tarzan together and just having it be a bickering buddy movie from this point on. I'm just suggesting that we hold off on doing that.
hold off on
Sherlock and Tarzan being teamed up one on one for this second half of the movie.
Sure.
But then that begs the question of what is Tarzan and John doing? What are they doing?
Well, they would be pursuing the cult.
Okay.
They would be Well, I guess that's the other reason it's weird to have Sherlock not pursue the actual villain.
Well, he wants the information.
That's true.
That's sort of my methodology here of what I'm suggesting. So, yeah, if Tarzan and John are then working that, so John could deal with Scotland Yard and the authorities of like what the hell's happening here.
Okay, there we go. Because initially I was like, well, because Watson can deal with society as well. Why wouldn't he be able to go to the Van Helsing estate or the Harker estate or whatever? It's because he has to deal with the law and keep them from going after Tarzan instead of Dracula.
This guy's with me. Please, he's with me. To build up to them having some sort of confrontation, like, going after,
and it also keeps one of our main characters in each of our threads rather than the sidekicks have gone over here.
Yes,
I realize that
yes.
elevates the sidekicks, and that's always fun because I like when sidekicks get elevated. But it does, It probably is better to do Sherlock and Watson, Sherlock and Jane. And Watson and Tarzan.
So in Tarzan and John pursuing the cult and trying to deal with Scotland Yard, do we want some traitors in Scotland Yard? Some cult members within there that basically...
now that you said it, yes.
Yeah.
So I want that.
Because if we have we can build up to an easy set piece of burning down the mansion to destroy all evidence of how Van Helsing and the Harkers destroyed Dracula the first time. That's a great building up to that set piece works.
Sure.
Let's build up to a set piece with John and Tarzan, which is we're chasing down cult members and we can rough up a few people, but ultimately, if it comes down to them being tricked or duped by some familiar, Dracula has already turned some of the cops, so then we have Tarzan has to punch.
Now we have vampire cops.
Yeah.
Vampire bobbies.
Yeah. I mean, it's like I don't know what more to do with that exactly, because here lies the question. If that's our two set pieces, we got a mansion burning down fighting cult members, and we got John and Tarzan versus evil cops turned cops. Great. The thread that needs to be answered here is, where does Dracula go? What is he doing? Why isn't he doing it now? That's actually the thrust of the second act of this movie.
Well, just because he's back, he's not to his full power yet, so he has to go and feed. There is a thread that I wanted to put in there. I don't know if we need to plant it that early, or if it's something that Jane and Sherlock come up with in their research, and then I don't know how to then get it to work, but they come to the conclusion Jane will need to be the bait. Tarzan is not about that, but I actually think if it's Jane's idea, because in researching how Helsing dealt with Dracula, they baited him.
Oh, they used it Mina.
Initially it was now I'm forgetting her name. Lucy.
Lucy. Yes, that's
Lucy, and then Mina. So Jane will be the bait for Dracula.
Dracula likes his pretty ladies.
Yep.
That's canon. We are not choosing to use her as a plot device.
Nothing is wrong with liking pretty ladies.
It's fine.
No,
it's fine.
Nothing should be wrong. We can yeah, and I don't need to get in that.
So Jane, basically using her as bait could work. It's still begs the question of like, what the hell is Dracula doing while they have time to do this? The heroes have time to do their thing. What's our villain up to? Why is he? Yeah, you're right. If he's not at full power yet,
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Right. He's in my mind right now. He's a feral vampire. That's not interesting.
yeah, he's just weakened.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, this will actually help answer the question: what is his ultimate goal? What is our villain's goal here? We know what the real goal here is, which is resurrect Moriarty with vampire powers, but the audience doesn't know that now.
Yeah.
They know. Well, you guys do, but don't tell anyone. Okay, when this movie gets made, don't spill the beans.
So now, we need
What's
to. We
Dracula's
need
motive here?
Because right now, I think I'm approaching him like he's Bane in Batman and Robin.
Okay. He could amass an army. He could be amassing specific minions. Like he could go after the governors, and he could go after the bankers. He needs to get his wealth back. He needs to get his elite status back, and therefore he is targeting the 1%ers of whatever this 20th century London is. Could that be? I don't know if that's enough of a thing for him to do. Like, what is his goal? And I'm asking you, but I'm asking saying out loud to ask myself, what is Dracula's goal? Power and control.
Yeah, I mean, does that make for an interesting so now we're following this vampire as he goes to all of the.
Well, look at Imhotep in The Mummy. I'm just going to draw from him. He had to get to his full power, and then
to get to his full power, he needed to collect his canopic jars.
Yes, and get his and then once at his full power, he wanted to resurrect Anaxunamun.
Yeah,
that was his goal.
Mm-hmm.
And in doing so, he used his terrible powers to unleash the plagues in order to get to his beloved.
Yeah.
So Dracula, that he doesn't have a beloved, right? He's not.
No.
And I don't think he should.
No.
He is about control. He is the personification of control.
Yeah, so I think I like your idea. It just is on an accelerated timetable. Is that interesting? He's like, I'm back, baby. Let's go. Turn all the lords into my minions.
Okay, let's try this. Let's have a hiccup in his plan. He's back. Once I'm at full strength, I will have all my wealth and power. Who's the wealthiest, most powerful person in London? I'm going to go take over their life.
The queen.
Okay.
The king?
Not
queen.
them. But he targets a governor with the notion of like, hello, please invite me into your home. Thank you. Yes, I am here to take over your life. I'm going to have all your wealth and all your power, and I'm going to be very happy about it. And that
I'm going to be very happy about it.
And thinks it's going to be easy, only to he doesn't have enough power yet, and he fails essentially. And it's like, okay, that didn't go how I wanted it to, therefore I need more power. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't make it too easy for him.
Mm-hmm.
So then it's okay. How long has he been out of the game? 50 years? Let's pick
not quite, but
nearly 5 decades, 40, 50 years. In 40 or 50 years, there have been advancements in technology and society that he didn't foresee and he doesn't quite understand. So therefore, like, if he shows up at some prestigious governor's house and he's going to take over his life only to be shot at, I don't know. Guns existed when he was killed the first time, but something trips him up where he's like, okay, I need to approach my power amassing a little differently. So then it's, instead of taking over your life, I can offer you eternal life. Work for me. And then let me just suck a little blood out of you. Cool, I have more power now. I don't know. I'm throwing spaghetti all over the place right now. Maybe we're thinking too hard about it. Maybe it's just,
like I'm like, now that I put it out there, I'm kind of having a hard time figuring out why Dracula wouldn't go after the crown.
Okay, let's discuss it. Let's go down this trail.
I mean, initially when he was moving to London, he wasn't going after the crown because
he was content to have his kingdom, like but you're right.
Well, I mean, he was going to move into London society and suckle off of them from the shadows. He was going to be content to do that, but he died.
So so
now he's back and he's mad about it.
I want to go back to that plan, but I'm aiming bigger. And you're right. Why wouldn't he go after go seduce the queen, for Christ's sake? Go seduce a princess.
Because there's a king in charge at this time.
I'll seduce a king, goddammit. Him and Moriarty are going to have a fling. Why can't him and the king have a fling? That's all right. We're not going to rewrite history. Going after the royals. Why not? Do you think that's too big? Is that too big of a Sherlock, Tarzan, and Dracula in a movie? I don't think too big is off the table.
That's true. So I think for maybe the first few beats after he escapes his awakening and escapes from the clutches of Sherlock and Tarzan, it is the order, the cult, helping him recover, getting him his old things, like here, maybe something like that. And during that, like, there's a point where Dracula's like, okay, I'm feeling better. I got my feet under me. I want bigger now.
I want more. I want more.
You guys are small potatoes.
You've served your purpose.
You're not doing what I want you to. And so then they go after the crown.
If he very swiftly makes his presence known, we'll say 2 days, 2 days, 2-3 days, he just immediately he's going after every elite he can to get to Buckingham Palace, to put himself, to kiss the hand of the king or the queen or the king or
Wait, so we don't have to show that. We don't have to go. We don't necessarily have to go to scenes of him being all like, "Oh, let's do this." So we're following our characters as these murders and mysteries are happening. Like Scotland Yard's like, "Oh, we had this lord or lady killed," and they go there and investigate. Yeah, this was Dracula. That's bad. And then they find like, oh, if he was here, they deduced he must go here, and they go there and they find out. This is where they then get the info that, oh, he's showing up and he's giving people that ultimatum.
Yeah.
Serve me, and I will give you immortality as my servant, or die.
Yeah. You get one or the other.
And so the second encounter, the person took the deal. So sorry, hiccups, hiccups and burps. And so they have to deal with now they have to deal with this mini boss.
Yeah. So that'd be John and Tarzan to have something to fight. Is that what you're suggesting? Or
maybe I don't know where this, because second act they go
one way and John
they go there. John and Tarzan go over here. Yeah, at least one. I don't know if they then come back.
Eventually, Jane and Sherlock will come back and meet up with John and Tarzan and be like, "What have you guys been through? What'd you find with the Harkers?" Well, a cult burnt it down. And what about you guys? Well, all the nobles have been bit or killed.
Yeah.
He's going after the crown. Like Sherlock could be like,
yeah.
He's going after the.
How'd you figure that out? Well, that's
elementary, my dear Watson. Actually, it'd be great if like Sherlock's just about to say it, and Jane's like, "He's going after the crown." I was going to say that. I've deduced it. Yeah, good for you. So then, yeah, okay, that works. That's fun. There's some adventure here. Okay, so. That kind of gives us Dracula.
If they're just interrupting each other all over the place, they meet back up. Watson, because they would have gotten the info from the vampire they killed. Watson's like, so Dracula's next step is, "Don't tell me I know." Sherlock says, "Don't tell me I know," and that's Jane interrupts him and says, "The crown." He's going after the crown. So everyone's interrupting.
Everyone's got it. No deduction whatsoever.
Yeah. We're writing mystery.
The answer is the answer.
Yeah.
So do they? Okay, so we're kind of leading up to final confrontation time here. Does the final confrontation happen at the palace?
That sounds fun.
Is it like just outside the palace, like Vlad has been invited, and like all the pieces are in place, and they have to like just throw down in Buckingham Palace. Guards over here that have been turned, elites over here that have been turned, the cult members have been turned. And it's just like
that's too many vampires.
Okay. I'm just asking.
No, I know. That's verging on territory you didn't want to go to.
Great. But
that like literally that would mean people are lining up and Dracula's just bite next, bite next, bite.
Okay, good. Yeah, I don't think it should go to that extreme, but having the final confrontation be at the palace, like protect the queen, protect the king, get him out of here. We gotta fight this guy.
Basically. Oh, there you go. Dracula is finding lords and ladies, not only of affluence that he can use, but also he's looking for someone who has the clout to get him an invitation to the palace.
Sure.
Because he can only go where he is invited.
Yeah, there you go. So get Sherlock kicking the door down to be like, stop! And then like, you again. No?
Yeah.
You say no?
No, I said
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then when is Sherlock going to have to accept? Because like Tarzan can punch through these guys, but do we want it to come down to Sherlock versus Dracula here? Or do we allow the team to take out Dracula and thus resurrect Moriarty? Because okay, let's get to this.
Yep.
Because before the break, you had suggested that you wanted to set this up for a sequel.
I didn't.
Okay.
I want to clarify.
Okay.
I didn't want to set it up for a sequel. Movies can have endings where there's like, oh, they're like the world continues, big terrible things continue.
Mm-hmm.
That is grist for a sequel.
Mm-hmm.
There doesn't have to be a sequel.
Okay. This is
I just think that would
this is my thought.
But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe by doing something like that, it begs a sequel. I don't know.
Well, let me suggest this.
Sure.
However we decide our team destroys Dracula,
Mm-hmm.
they succeed. Victory. Dracula is taken
Sure.
down. Sherlock finally comes to terms with the supernatural and kills Dracula. Like the team destroys him. They are lauded as they're heroes. They've done it. They've saved the day. All is right with the world. Let's wrap up into the epilogue of the movie. And Sherlock is, thanking Watson for coming to hang out for the week.
Mm-hmm.
And something's still nagging. Something's not right. I'm looking over the case again, John.
And we get a usual suspects montage.
He's putting it together. He's like, something doesn't sit right with me. Yes, I understand. You have to admit that vampires exist. It's not that. A, B, C, D, E. John, this isn't over yet. And we get another climax where it's the revelation of, and then rushing to location X, kicking the door down, and there is Moriarty, like finishing being resurrected, and being like, "Aha! I knew it. This was all a plot to bring you back from the dead." And then we get the actual. So it's a misdirect finale by destroying Dracula, and there's another 20 minutes of movie. So you're sitting in the theater going, "Why is there still 20 minutes of movie?" And then,
I mean, if we did our job, you won't be doing that.
No, you wouldn't. But if someone, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
what do you think of that? Of it being like, I see you don't like it. But if
I only don't like it because I don't like ending things. I like continuing things. And I'm not saying this has to be, and thus the franchise continues. But
Look, listen, we have opened up Sherlock to facing off against paranormal things. We can steal all the ideas that League of Extraordinary Gentlemen failed at, and we've got The Wolfman. We've got War of the Worlds. We got a whole mess of new adventures for Sherlock and Tarzan to go on.
okay, so here's my problem with them defeating Moriarty. Even though his plan succeeded, they get there, they then defeat Moriarty. How would you feel if at the end of a Batman movie, it turns out that it's a movie where it's Batman versus the cards, the
Royal Flush King.
The Royal Flush Gang, and it's in the way Batman movies have been going, this realistic, gritty thing. So they do this great job of making this like citywide gang.
Yeah.
And he defeats them at the end, and it turns out they were all brought together by the Joker. And the Joker shows up, and he's like, ah ha ha! And so Batman has to have a final fight with Joker, and he defeats Joker.
Okay, I 1,000% take your point. So let me try variation here. Something's still nagging at Sherlock.
Mm-hmm.
He puts the pieces together, goes to the falls even, because we started the movie there, and God damn it, I'm ending the movie there. If he gets there and or no, let's not go back to the falls.
No, I like. I would almost say that's a part of the ritual to raise Moriarty.
Yeah, that he gets there. He looks at the clues that are before him without saying. Maybe puts together A, B, and C. We get the usual suspect, the mind palace of Sherlock Holmes, as he puts it together, and has a moment of Moriarty's not dead. Like, he doesn't have to say it, but it's the realization. We don't see Moriarty back from the dead. The implication says all of this was said and done. Moriarty's out there somewhere.
Sure. Actually, I also like going back to the falls for a couple other reasons. Well, one, we started the movie that way. Why did we start the movie that way, other than just to say, "Hey, our main character is here"?
Yeah.
But it's like poetry.
Yes, that's why I just cursed myself by saying we're going back to where we started. Every time I argue that point, anyway. Going back to the falls. Yeah.
I think that happens a lot in stories because it feels good.
It does. Yeah, I'm not.
It doesn't
I'm not,
have to happen, but
it's a joke between it. It's an inside joke. Yeah.
Yeah, like I like that happens because that's where we started with Sherlock, quote unquote, coming back from the dead.
Yeah, and we go back
and
there,
we go
and
back
he's
there
like,
and we see Moriarty come back from the dead.
we don't see Moriarty. We don't have to have Sherlock see him per se, but just that the implication is, and even going so far as Sherlock is happy about it, as subtle as it might be, to be like, not only is my greatest enemy back from the dead, I know that there are much bigger and grander threats in this world. It doesn't have to be said. It's just like a subtle moment of like, the game is on. The game is afoot. Like,
I won't say no. The way you're describing it to me sounds psychopathic.
well, yeah, Sherlock Holmes is a sociopath.
Narcissistic and psychopathic.
He is a narcissist and a sociopath. It is completely in character for him.
I would equate it more to Baron Munchausen. Baron Munchausen, the more his is about belief. If you believe his stories, the stronger he gets.
Okay,
but that's a bad comparison. But that's what came to mind.
I think Sherlock is a psychopath.
The idea that through this movie, well, I don't want to portray him as that.
I'm not. Okay, he's narcissist. He's a narcissist.
This what do they call them? Not capers, not adventures. The mysteries. The case. This case. As the movie goes, we see him sort of coming back to life himself.
Yeah,
I like that. It's a wonderful theme we have going.
Yes,
coming back to life.
He's coming back to life, and to end it with him, I think he would have a little bit of thrill at the notion that Moriarty literally resurrected himself and might have vampire powers.
And I think we end the movie.
Yes.
We can have them encounter Moriarty. I think Moriarty should escape, so they can.
See, now it's funny because I'm like, no, I don't even want to see Moriarty yet. But go ahead.
Okay. Well, I was going to say that because then. I think I see what you're saying. They get there and they're too late.
Yeah.
Like the cleanup's already done. The whatever details we would need to be told, like, oh, they were here.
Yeah.
But it's gone. Maybe okay.
But you were suggesting.
Basically, I like the idea of it can't really end on this because we need to send. Maybe we don't have to send Tarzan and Jane back to Africa, but I like the idea of the last line is Watson, the game is afoot.
Sure, we can.
Although that does begs for a sequel.
The game is on.
Was something you weren't
no
wanting to do.
The only thing I didn't want us to set this up super obviously. I wanted closure, and leaving that little bit of extra there to go. Oh, there's more to come. That's fine. I'm definitely that's the card. That's the Joker card at the end of Batman Begins. I'm okay with it, and I think we can put Jane and Tarzan on the boat back to Africa as they've defeated Dracula and they're resolving it before Sherlock has the last 5 minutes of movie where he's like, something still isn't feeling right. Oh, back to the falls. And sure, if you actually want him to look up and see Moriarty kind of like in the distance, give him a wink and a nod and run away, okay, I could be convinced to do that. But I'd much rather it just be, oh.
Okay. like it was in the 2009 movie where
Yes.
they solved everything, and then we just get a quick little montage
Oh,
of
sure.
a
Yeah.
hand stealing a piece and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I forgot. You're right. I forgot about that. But yeah, a little bit of Moriarty still out there.
Okay.
I mean, do you want to see him?
The reason I was wanting to go so far as to meet Moriarty, at least in the denouement like that, was because I was thinking a part of the mystery was going to be this cult of Dracula. They weren't just, we're the cult of Dracula and we want Dracula back. Moriarty's cult, essentially. His henchmen were guiding them the whole time.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's something Sherlock is going to come to the realization of. And so to like all of that realization is going to build up to be, that's more than just a hint that Moriarty got away. Like that that's been a through line through this whole thing. It was never Dracula's plot.
Yeah, it was Moriarty's.
Yeah.
So giving just
So I maybe I'm wrong. I feel like seeing him, and this is a quibble thing. This is something we could work out
in the script.
Yeah.
How about this then? To maybe see if we can split the
I
difference.
feel like either way we're pretty much on the same page. Where that is not Act 3.
Correct. It is just an extra little epilogue of Sherlock is truly back from the dead.
Yeah, we're not gonna exchange punches with Moriarty.
No, but if it's a matter of Sherlock going by himself and then seeing Moriarty and having just a look at each other before Moriarty runs away, and then Watson showing up like, "You raced ahead. What's up, Sherlock? The game is afoot, Watson." And then something like that. Like, if you need to see him on screen, I'm willing to make that happen. But you're right. I think we're on the same page in terms of how this ultimately comes to a conclusion. Let's back up.
Let's argue for another half hour about the very specific
That's
detail.
what people want to hear. That's what people are tuning in for. Let's back up to the defeat of Dracula himself. How does this happen? Because of actually what we just discussed, I don't want this to specifically be just a Sherlock movie. It is very much he is the backbone of this, and Tarzan's entering his world. Dracula's entering his world. That's great. I'm perfectly okay with that. Defeating Dracula, how does Tarzan factor into the actual final defeat? You see what I'm saying? Like, I want to make sure that we respect our heroes that have come this far, so that it just it's just not Sherlock who gets to kill Dracula. Is it just Tarzan beating all the minions while Sherlock gets to the bad guy? Or is this not worth dissecting right now?
It's worth it.
Okay.
It's always worth it.
It's always worth it.
I see. My initial thought would be the brain defeats the big bad.
Yeah.
And the muscle protects them / takes out all the henchmen.
Okay. If you're cool with that, I'm cool with that. Just because having Tarzan and Jane beating the shit out of people while John is like,
John would be
punch.
Watson would be doing that too. He's a soldier.
It's true, but the extent at which he's capable of, I don't want to give him Baritsu power, kung fu powers. Like, it's like Happy beating up the one thug while Black Widow beats up 10 thugs in Iron Man 2.
Sure. I think, because what's kind of built into Dracula, I don't know if this would be too cliche and you want to defeat him another way,
Sure.
is sunrise.
But
So
Sunrise,
do they fight him all night long? All night
Sunrise
long.
doesn't kill Bram Stoker's Dracula.
It doesn't?
He just loses his powers at sunrise. He can walk out in the sunlight.
I failed.
That's
the
all right.
Dracula test.
That's okay. It stake through the heart and fire, I believe, and honestly, people correct me if I'm wrong. It's been a long time since I've read Bram Stoker's, but I believe it's a stake to the heart and fire and beheading is what are the three items or the three elements of killing Dracula. And we maybe we don't need to sit here right now and dissect the minutia of how Dracula is ultimately defeated right down to the final details.
And if so because we don't have a clever way to defeat Dracula, I think if they all do their part to wrangle Dracula.
Yeah. If Sherlock's smart enough to realize he's depowered in the sunlight, at least getting to that point is fine.
Sure.
And then punch, stab, kick, behead, all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I wonder-
Huh. All right.
Wonder if there could be some sort of metaphorical son that Sherlock could call upon.
I call upon the power of Grayskull. Okay, like a silver sword. That'd be fun.
Or like, I don't know enough about the royal family. Like, I don't know if there's maybe some sort of, not legend. Legend is the wrong word, but like something about the crown itself.
Is the sun like the
right, like,
crown
like
is the sun?
Like the crown is the shining light on
Something like that.
I don't know. Probably not.
That's good. There could be
It's probably
something in
not.
there. There could be something in there. But let's kind of like wrap up here. Let me just look at Ben and Pat's demands here real quick. 3 most famous characters of all time. They exist together. Allies or enemies. Well, kind of did both. I'm glad we didn't go modern day. Did you have any inclination to set this in modern day?
No, I didn't. I actually even more so. Like we watched the Guy Ritchie one, and he wanted to avoid certain Sherlock Holmes cliches.
Right.
I want to lean into them.
So like Elementary, My Dear Watson.
Mm-hmm. He wears the deerskin cap.
Oh, you're going full deerskin.
Smokes the pipe.
Smoke of the opium.
I like the opium / cocaine thing. I think that'd probably be the one thing I wouldn't do. Like
pull that back. Let's pull that
Yeah.
back. Okay.
Or could even allude to it
Sure.
when he's sequestered in his depression, in his recovery depression.
I like giving Tarzan and Jane sort of a very active role, like physical roles in this. Like it makes sense. Tarzan is this like force, giving all the sort of like whatever sort of, I don't know, it's not kung fu obviously, but whatever physical fighting ability we give Tarzan and Jane, it's going to be some cool action set pieces there.
Well, I don't. I mean, you've. I don't see Jane having.
Not at the extent of Tarzan,
yeah.
but I do see
Well,
her. She's lived in the jungle. She can hold her own.
Oh, okay. I saw her being on par with Watson.
I'd put her closer to Tarzan than Watson.
Interesting.
Because she has literally fighting cheetahs and gorillas out in the jungle. So I just see her being super capable.
Watson has fought wars.
He is a marksman, if anything. No, he's a boxer. Like I just giving them different sets of physicality is fun. I just like having Jane part of the story is a neat idea. I'm glad we thought of it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Yep. The skill sets and personalities. Yep. Yep. Pat, I hope we did it for you. And Ben, what did you think? In association with Classic Pictures, look behind you. How's Ben look? Does he look satisfied?
I think so.
Okay, good. Yeah. All right. Cool. Well, let's wrap up. Any final thoughts as we get to the end here? I do have a conversation point, but I'm actually going to save it for the bonus content.
Bonus content. I don't think so. Like we didn't really elaborate on my idea that Jane is the bait.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
That's okay. I'd figure that in somewhere.
Well, if going for the crown, even if she's just momentarily the bait, or literally distracts him with like, pretty lady.
It could be any combination of that. Like I'd probably even build in something that when he first resurrects, he notes her.
So that maybe that's the just enough of the distraction they need when he's like, if Dracula's like aimed, like got his sights set on entering the palace or getting to that moment of hitting the royalty, if Jane appears and is like, Count, hello, you again.
What are you waiting for?
You intrigue me, woman.
Sure, something like that. Even if it's just like a Jasmine distracting.
Yes, yeah. That's we're similar here. Yeah,
Jafar, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. I think that's that Jane is the decoy, as the bait still works.
Or like, just to lure him in close enough, and like she slaps him with a holy symbol. Like, God,
you
meanie, what are you doing?
You mean lady? Oi, with the lady and the burning of the skin. Okay, well, how did we do, folks? I am curious what you all think. We are in some well-trodden territory, has been noted, but I This is fun. Jim and I, we've had many conversations about the lack of adventure movies, and
just speaking, unless you want to wrap up,
No,
I don't
no,
want
that's
to go on
fine.
a tangent that takes us for another 45 minutes.
not 45, but please, what do you got?
I'm starting to change my mind on that.
Yeah.
I actually think not only are we seeing more adventure movies now, I think maybe we've had quite a few. They just haven't been the exact same as we've been looking for. We've been looking for the 80s
Indiana
80s
Jones,
adventures movies.
Mummy.
But I think the
Yeah.
adventure movies have been there.
Mm-hmm.
They changed a little bit, and we're starting to see the needle move back toward those more obvious tropes that we were looking for.
I think so.
But I think the adventure movies kind of always been around.
I can agree to that.
Here's a terrible. I would have. I
Uncharted.
feel bad saying this out loud. Well, Uncharted is more recent. That isn't.
Yeah.
Transformers.
Oof.
They travel the globe.
Yeah. I don't like it.
Same.
I don't like it.
But that's sort of what I mean. I think it was an adventure movie, just not the way we wanted.
Yeah,
It wasn't not for us.
Leather
I don't know what
jackets
this
and
voice
really
is.
obvious punch sounds. You don't know what that voice was. I like when we excitedly talk over each other.
Yeah.
But okay, I think that does it for this episode. We'd love to know if we did meet the demand today, so please hit us up. Agree, disagree. What did we miss? How inaccurate is our lore about both Dracula and Tarzan and Sherlock? Yeah, it's I've lost. Oh yeah, that if I saw a trailer for Sherlock, Dracula, Tarzan,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is that what we're calling the movie? Sherlock Holmes.
Oh yeah, we never came up with a title.
I think is Sherlock Dracula, Tarzan.
Sherlock Darkest London.
Sherlock Holmes.
That alludes to British colonial adventures into Africa, Darkest Africa.
Oh, sure.
Which has allusions of a lot of the colonial racist stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So,
So
maybe that title's not the best thing to invoke.
Okay. I don't know if you saw a movie I mean, they keep putting out movie titles that are so dull, like stupid. Plane, dog, and then those movies do great. It's like, all right, we're playing to the lowest common denominator here. What's the movie? I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about this movie and its title: Sherlock, Dracula, Tarzan.
Yeah.
There's your movie.
Oh, Sherlock v. Dracula v.
No.
Tarzan.
V is so passe. We're on X's now, Jim.
Dawn of Deduction.
Oh, it's terrible. Oh, that's terrible.
It's real bad.
It's real bad.
Because it's also not the dawn of anything. It's,
You can message us directly at studiodemandsit.com or on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram at Studio Demands It. If you're not already, you can subscribe to us on any podcatcher of your choice. And if you feel like giving us a little review, please do so in-app. 5 stars only, please. That's if you're not going to give us 5 stars, then just stop. Just don't do that. We don't want we don't need criticism. We just want 5 stars.
yes.
Yes, thank you, Jim. Thank you for backing me up on this.
No words, only stars.
Yeah.
All the stars.
You can also find us on YouTube
Stars.
and TikTok, where we are posting video content this year, including material not heard on this show. You can find me you can find me on Twitter at TC's Big Head, where, as I've mentioned, I've been having some lovely conversations with some of you listeners on there. So thank you for that. You can find Jim.
There as well.
You can find Jim there as well. And as mentioned, we have a Patreon for only a couple bucks a month. You can get episodes early. You can get extended double-length episodes. You can get movie commentary tracks. In fact, the conversation that we're going to have once we go off mic here that you can listen to over on Patreon, I'm going to talk about Cast. We're going to cast this movie.
We're going to do a cast discussion.
A massive thank you to 6.5 Media for everything they do for us. Please check out the other 6.5 shows. Jim, that's it for this episode. Did you brew up any other final thoughts while I was wrapping up here?
I didn't. My head is strangely clear.
Oh,
I've gotten all of the ideas out.
Now you're just drooling.
Yeah.
Your baby oil is dried up.
Yeah.
Oh.
Little ideas like, well, what if what if Dracula's going to the Lord? He's killing the lords, but turning the ladies, right, to recreate his
Lady
Dracula's
army.
brides.
His lady army.
And then we can kind of like reference the Dracula's brides from the original novel and stuff.
That's a fun idea. I don't mind it.
Stuff like that.
Cool. All right. Well, let's delve into some further conversation here, but that'll be all for this episode. We will be back soon with another
How
one.
soon will we be back?
We post every other week, so that's when we will be back. Whenever you're listening to this, 14 or less days from now.
Yes.
14 or fewer days.
I don't know.
Grammar! Right.
I should know. I don't know.
I'm TC.
I'm Jim.
And that is the end of the show.
It is the end of the show.